All right, everybody, how's it going? It is Thursday, October 20th, 2022, and we have something new, new kind of video thing we're going to be doing. We normally only do like one weekly upload during the NFL season and a bunch of live streams, but now let's introduce something new. Let's have the Week 7 NFL Power Rankings. We're going to be doing Power Rankings for the rest of the season and probably going forward. I think this is kind of like a fun thing to do. I see a lot of other channels doing this, like giving their own Power Rankings. You can compare these to the NFL's Power Rankings. They're not too different, but my top 10 is a little different than theirs. We're only doing the top 10, and then we'll also include 11 through 15 as well, who are just kind of thrown in there as like, these are teams that I think are close but not exactly like included, so they'll be in the just missed the cut. And then of course we'll have the normal like 10 through 1, and we'll go over each of those and why I think that those guys belong in Week 7 Power Rankings. And then next week we'll say who goes in, who stays up, who moves down. There'll be a more lateral, there'll be more movement in the slides and things like that as this gets going. And so before we get started, make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. Make sure you leave your thoughts down below, leave your Power Rankings down below. I'll be sure to comment back on those. It's a lot like the picks video. If you leave your Power Rankings, I'll comment, we'll talk about it. You can disagree with me, you can do any kind of commenting as long as it's not like crazy. But yeah, make sure you leave a like too, because that does help the video perform better. It makes it it makes it pop in algorithms or whatever that YouTube mumbo jumbo is. So sorry to interrupt your video with that YouTube stuff, but it actually does help and it makes a big difference. So thank you if you're able to do that. If not, just enjoy the video anyway. Just missed the cut, like I said, that'll be like the first part of the video, so let's jump into it. Let's see how we do, and let's see how people think of our Power Rankings. At number 11 we have the Miami Dolphins. This was a tough one to not put in the top 10, where I was like, man, Miami's really good when they have Tua, but it's like one of them things where it's like, well, the last few weeks have been pretty abysmal, and getting Tua back should be big, but it's like, well, until we see everything and make sure it was just missing Tua, it's kind of hard to determine if like their offensive struggles are like a coaching situation or if it's just like they just need a quarterback. So for right now, they kind of just missed the list. I'm talking like when you see who number 10 is, you'll be like, okay, that kind of makes sense based on how you're doing things. Number 12 would be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They haven't just really looked good at all, but they're still 3-3. Had a good start, have played pretty badly the last few games, so they of course are going to be missing the cut. Tennessee Titans, they started off pretty poorly, but have like leveled their way up and up. Once we see Derrick Henry, once they get back in, this team could leapfrog quickly into the top 10, in my opinion. They're a pretty good team, but again, they had that really weird start and just kind of looked dead in the water. So to me, they were kind of down far on my internal list, I guess you could say. Number 14 would be the New England Patriots, who again started off pretty poorly, have come along the last few games. Their defense has been lights out against the Browns and the Lions. They've been running the ball pretty well, so they're playing great special teams. So we're starting to see a more traditional Patriots team that might finish around 9, 10, 11 wins. And they're getting Mac Jones, so they're starting to come up. They're looking a little bit better. And at number 15, normally I probably won't include this because it's only 14 like teams that are actually relevant anyway, because that's how many make the playoffs, even though it's not going to be all AFC, NFC. But I included the Rams and the 49ers. I didn't really know who to put at 15. I was like, they feel like the same teams at this point in the season. So these, however you want to consider that, it's kind of an irrelevant spot. But yeah, those are the 4 teams that I think that are, you got to probably watch out for and see how things continue to go. I would have put the Packers there, but until they get another receiver, they feel like really, like they'd be 16 is where I'd have the Packers. All right, let's jump into the 10 through 1 power rankings. Again, this is very subjective and very opinionated. This is more of like, this is just what I think it is. So again, you can disagree and make sure you leave your comments down below. Number 10, the Los Angeles Chargers. I could have put them higher, but I think at 10 is just about appropriate. They've been up, they've been down. They're kind of inconsistent, especially on the offensive side of the ball this year. They look good at moments in games, and then they look really bad in moments. So it's kind of hard. Their defense has been hit and miss. They had to squeak that win out against the Broncos, so that's never too impressive. But again, they're winning games. They're 4-2. They're winning, and they look decent winning too. So feels right. They're one of the few teams with a pretty solid record that isn't 3-3. So then we have the New York Jets. This is kind of a respect pick, and I maybe should have flip-flopped them in the Chargers, but with the way the Jets defense has been playing, we've seen offenses a lot less capable than the Jets win Super Bowls with defenses that have played like the Jets defense has played so far this season. Again, do I expect the Jets to be able to maintain this kind of torrid pace? No, I think eventually it'll kind of fall off. The defense might get a little exhausted. It's a young group of guys, so pretty good coaching though, good special teams, great defense has gotten them to a 4-2 record, and I have to respect that. And the fact that their offense is doing enough to win games, you can't really like poo-poo on that. You can't poo-poo on a 4-2 team that's winning primarily defense, special teams, and running the ball. It's like, that's not a bad team. That's just, you know, they just got to find, like, their quarterback just has to find some consistency, and they'll probably be this is like a pretty scary Jets team. So, you know, that's probably the one where everyone's gonna be like, why the fudge? What are you doing putting the Jets so high? But it's also like, well, I mean, you got to understand, I mean, they're really good on defense. Quinnen Williams is playing unreal. And then we have the Cincinnati Bengals, who again started off very poorly, looked like one of the worst teams that, like, they looked like a typical Bengals team, and then they snapped back into place that last last quarter against Dallas, and they've looked really good since then, minus a game to the Ravens, but division games are kind of weird. So yeah, the Bengals to me look like they're about ready to rev it up and start winning a bunch of games in a row here. It seems like Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are warming up. Their defense is starting to kind of click into get back into shape, click into things. Their offensive line's looking better and better and better. Their run game is starting to look better. It's like everything for the Bengals is starting to warm up, which it makes a lot of sense, as they didn't really have a preseason because of Burrow's appendectomy. You know, he got his appendix taken out right before training camp began, so it's kind of like a delayed start for them. And they've looked better and better and better each week with Burrow. So I kind of like them right now. They seem to be, you know, they seem to have it figured out, and they seem to be heading more toward what we've seen, you know, last year with them. So I like them at number 8. Number 7, I have the Baltimore Ravens. I wanted to put like the Ravens for like 3 quarters, and then like they're like the 32nd team in the NFL in the 4th quarter. They've blown like 3 double-digit leads. I probably shouldn't have them this high, but then again, for about 3 quarters of football, they're one of the best teams in football. Maybe they should be down at number 10 because it's like I don't really know what to consider them, but they're better than the Bengals. They're better than the Jets. And I'm pretty sure they would beat the Chargers head-to-head as well. That's the craziest thing. They beat the Jets and they beat the Bengals. So it's like one of them things where you're like, well, what are we doing here? Are the Ravens good? Are they bad? What do we know? They're better than the other 3 teams that are above that, like that are higher on the list than them. So, or lower on the list than them. So it makes sense to put them here. I don't know. If they can like actually figure out how to stop, like, just like their defense stop imploding, this is a really good Ravens team. They very easily could be 6-0, which is crazy to think about. So I feel like you may think they're a little high on this list, but again, when you really stop and go look at everything, it's not that crazy of a spot to put the Ravens, in my opinion. This is where everybody will probably start agreeing with me, where you might have a few disagreements on very specific placements of people. Especially with 6 and 5, there might be a little bit of fucking like from Giants fans or from Dallas fans. You know, that the next 2 are the trickiest ones, trust me, and I have good reason for this. With the Dallas Cowboys, yeah, they've been very good this year. But that loss to the Eagles really kind of shed a light, like, all right, they just played a really good offense, and all of a sudden that supposed elite defense looked a little bit more human, a little bit more like a normal average defense. It was still very good, but it looked a little bit more average against what Philly had to offer. So there was a little bit of a light shined on that. And then we also have to look at their offense. They did okay. They were pretty not that good on offense with Cooper Rush. I mean, if we're being honest, they were winning games. They were just getting enough done to win. And then when Cooper Rush and the brakes fell off, there was nothing there else. You know, it was nothing else really to, you know, guide the Cowboys forward, especially when they got down in the game. It was pretty bad. They do get Dak back. They have a good running game established somewhat this year with Zeke and with Pollard. They go play Detroit. They should be able to get their bearings together. Dak should be able to come back against a pretty Swiss cheesy defense this year in the Detroit Lions. But right now, I don't know. Like, there's just a few things I have a few questions about with the Cowboys. Like, are they as good on defense as we thought they were? How's their offense going to look with Dak, even though it's kind of looked despondent this year? So, you know, right now they just kind of feel like they belong in the top 10, but probably not the top 5. Not until we see what they look like completely healthy. And this is probably where some Cowboys fans are going to be like, oh, come on, we're better than them. Yeah, well, wait. It gets funnier and funnier. Well, we have the New York Jets, or the Giants, at number 5 here on the list. I think this is a perfect spot for them. They belong in the top 5. They've played very, shockingly good football. Their coaching has been really good. Running game has been really good. Defense has been great. Special teams has been solid. The only thing that's even their offense has been somewhat okay. Daniel Jones hasn't played bad football. He's not losing the game for them in any capacity. I really can't find too much of a fault other than the fact they have absolutely no wide receivers. But despite that, they're still winning football games. That's a big thing too, by the way. They may be winning ugly, but the first word is more important than the second word. Ugly, pretty, it's all subjective. They're winning football games, and that's why they're 5-1. And it's I really can't find a fault right now. It's are they lucky? I don't know. Is it good? I don't know. Is it luck, or is it good coaching combined with great defense and a bunch of talent on offense that was mismanaged by the last regime and Joe Judge, and just not used right? And Saquon's healthy, so that's making quite the big difference for them in terms of being able to control the ball, run the football, just a lot of things differently. And that's really making a big deal having Saquon back, because they can hold the ball, run the clock, and kind of just play their brand of football, smash mouth defense. And, that's why I like the Giants at 5. They're playing good. And until the wheels fall off, they belong where they're at. Number 4, we have the Minnesota Vikings. They could be higher with their 5-1 record, but until they can start winning primetime games and everybody can drop the whole, because again, they had that one primetime game and they looked absolutely miserable again. It was come on. Other than that, though, great football team. They're winning the games where last year they'd lose. Because if you go look last year, there was so many games where they'd lose because they gave up points at halftime or at the end of the game, to a point where it was they would have been 13-1 if they didn't do that in those 6 games last year. It was they had this almost really great record last year, but they weren't winning these really close late one score games where the score flip-flops, or they just weren't able to a good example is last year they'd go get a field goal and take a 2-point lead, and then the other team would come back and score a field goal and win the game. It was things like that were ruining the Vikings last year, where it's this year they'll score a touchdown, go up by 4, and then the other team can't come back. So that's kind of the difference in the Vikings season, and that's why we see them at 5-1, and that's why I have them as one of my top 5 teams. Number 3, this is, Eagles fans might not like this one. I think the Eagles are a good team. I think they're a solid team right now. I think they're playing good football. They have the best record in the NFL, but again, they've played a few chintzy teams, but I don't really hold that against them. I don't know. I just feel there's 2 teams that are better than them, and you can kind of take your guesses. Do I think they're one of the best teams in the NFC? Yeah, I think right now they probably are the best team in the NFC. And that's very safe to say. But again, the NFC feels a little weaker. It doesn't feel as outside of the NFC East, and one team in the NFC North. The NFC isn't in good shape. I guess the AFC isn't either, but there's a few more top-heavy teams anyway. With the Eagles, though, they play good defense. They do what they got to do to win on offense. Special teams has been solid. Good coaching. Good team. Really can't say anything negative. I just think the other 2 teams are a little bit ahead of them. And to be in the top 3 to me is still you're one of the premier. The top 4 are all Super Bowl contenders, in my opinion. Really, the top 4 are probably your Super Bowl contenders. Then you got Kansas City Chiefs at number 2. Can't make them number 1 after last week. That was kind of the battle for the number 1 seed. I just throw them up there. We already know who number fucking 1 is going to be. Then it's that would have been hilarious if I just didn't put Buffalo on the list. Do you know how mad Buffalo fans would have been? They would have been dude, I get it. You put the Patriots as 1, but do you really think they're the best team in football? Yeah, I do. Yeah. They should be number 1, but Buffalo will give them number 1, Kansas City 2. Mainly, I think these are the 2 best teams in the NFL, and they went head-to-head, and the Bills pulled out ahead this time. So right now, the Bills sit at top the mantle with number 1. Kansas City sits at 2 this year. Again, you know, there might be some small disagreements here, especially including the Jets, the Bengals, maybe the Ravens, the Giants, the Cowboys, and Eagles placements might be a little wonky. But I think in general, this is a pretty solid top 10 teams, especially when you consider. Oh, I can't go backwards quickly. But yeah, I think that's pretty solid. Yeah, so it'll be the Chargers, Jets, Bengals, Ravens, Cowboys, Giants, Vikings, Eagles, Chiefs, and Bills is my NFL top 10 list, my power rankings anyway. Well, let's see how they fare this week. Let's see if anybody moves up, anybody falls down, anybody breaks into the top 10, anybody falls out. But again, if you want to leave your thoughts down below, make sure you do that. I'll be sure to comment back to you as soon as I possibly can. We'll exchange thoughts. I'll see your top 10, see how it looks compared to mine. Yeah, so that'll be pretty much it on this video. Again, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here, just quick YouTube stuff. Thank you so much if you listened all the way through. Thank you very much for that. Well, we'll see how this video series does going forward, and we'll see if we keep making them. Week 7 power rankings video down the drain. Let's see how we did, and let's see if our good teams continue to be good, or will somebody else crack their way in. Let's find out. Week 7. Let's see.